And I'm done. That is The Ice by Ryan Carhill. Finished on release day, launch day. The Ice is the latest novella in the Bound and the Broken series. It's actually a prequel, as all of the novellas have been so far, but this one is a prequel about how Aeson, who is one of the major characters from The Bound and the Broken, brings, well, I think if you're watching this review, you're probably okay with me telling you this part. It's an extremely minor spoiler, which will cover something that is about, in the first 100 pages of the first book. Aeson is bringing a dragon egg from the kind of the frozen wasteland, the Antarctica almost, of the world of the Bound and the Broken. So he's him and a group of his most trusted people and some mercenaries and some old friends all find out that there are dragons in Valacia, which is the Icelands, the Antarctica, as I said, of the world of the Bound and the Broken. And he takes that crew to try and find a dragon egg, to try and bring it back to Etheria so that they can fight back against the Dragon Guard, which are a group of dragon riders that serve the kind of evil empire of the Bound and the Broken world. So I won't go too deep into the plot and the connections and stuff. So if you've read any of the Bound and the Broken books, you know the bones of this story. So you know that Aeson went to Valacia. You know what he came back with, what happened, but you don't know the story of how he got the egg. And I think that the most interesting thing is that this book is entirely from Aeson's point of view. So there's no POV switch. It's all from his point of view the whole time through. It's the longest of the Bound and the Broken novellas so far. It's like a 6-hour audio book. So not far off, say, for example, the first Dresden Files novel. So it's probably actually a short novel rather than a novella. But Ryan's calling it a novella because, his other books are like 800, 900, 1,000 pages. So I think that in comparison, the novella seems about right. I did read this in an entire day. So I read the first chapter at midnight last night, the second it released. And then I caught a few chapters throughout the day as I was, hang out with my son and when he was like playing independently and stuff. And then I managed to finish the book this evening. It's now 20 past 10 at night. I was going to save this review to release it on Monday, to be my Monday video. But what I'm going to do is post it today as soon as I finish recording it. So that's going to be a fun treat for you. And then this is going to be completely non-spoiler, just me talking about my thoughts and feelings. And then on Monday, I'm going to do a full spoiler review where I go through the story piece by piece and give my thoughts. So I'm not going to go through, every single line of the book or anything, but it's going to be a long video. It's going to be really in depth of what goes on. So if you've read The Ice and you're looking, you don't know anyone to have this kind of spoiler conversation with, just come back to the channel on Monday and I will have recorded one. I'll be recording it Monday morning, so it'll be there. Now, like I said, I love that this book is from Aeson's point of view. So there are Aeson POV chapters in The Bound and the Broken. There's a couple of really good ones in Of War and Ruin, which I feel give you a bit of an insight into Aeson, and also I think something that you don't get as much from Farda because of the Aeson and Farder have a specific thing in common. They have a loss in common, and the way that it affects Farder is very, very different to the way that it has affected Aeson. And the thing with Aeson is that he's very, very he's kind of consumed with this loss, and then this loss is compounded by the death of his wife several years before the start of the series, and kind of he's balancing the loss he feels with the deep love for his sons, and also the kind of need to protect them, and so he's kind of been on this crusade for revenge for a very long time, and he kind of goes from, when he has his sons, he takes that mission kind of from revenge almost to creating the kind of world for them that he wants. And he talks about this in the book, in the Ice. They talk a lot about how he talks a lot about how he wants to create a world for his grandchildren, for Eric and Darlin's children, that isn't the world that he had to he brought Eric and Darlin in. And I think that that's a really interesting concept, and it's something that I think about a lot as a parent. I think about not just the world that you bring your children into, but the change that you can make and the values that you can instill into your children, and so that they can maybe be better parents than you were, or that they can hopefully have a better life than you did. That's something that I think every parent wants, and that really rang true with Aeson. There are a lot of really good supporting characters in the book. So there's Varma, who is a battle mage, and she's shown to be incredibly powerful, and she does some really cool stuff in the book. Lots of really, really cool magic stuff that she gets up to. The magic system of the Spark is still there in force, obviously. Both Aeson and Verna and another character, Pulvir, I think his name was. I don't have the glossary open, sorry. They can all touch the Spark, and the way that they use it is different in every way, and in their own way. And then Pulvir is he's great as well. So he only has a couple of strong moments in the book, like big moments where he's kind of central to the story, but he kind of provides this mirror for Aeson, because he's got his children with him in the same way that Aeson has his sons with him, as they go through this kind of treacherous world. So it's the world is covered in snow and ice, and even the nature is very, very inhospitable to Aeson and to people, but also the wildlife and the inhabitants of Valencia are very, very dangerous and violent. There's a line in the book that says, "In Etheria you are hunters, in Valencia you are prey," and that definitely rings true. The core group that you spend most of the book with are extremely powerful. So you've got spark wielders, you've got elves who've mastered swordcraft over hundreds of years, you've got Darlin and Eric, who are extremely capable fighters, but the oppression and the constant kind of fear that's coming through, and that kind of feeling of being overwhelmed, being outnumbered, being seconds away from having their throat slit, their innards eaten by a giant like snow tiger, and very, very very effective, and turning those powerful characters into kind of a group on the run is something that we've not really seen from the Bound and the Broken so far. it mirrors kind of the there's a section of War and Ruin, which where Kaelin and some of the supporting cast go through a kind of haunted sort of area, or like an area that's been kind of like that's almost known to be like cursed, and this kind of feels like they extended that section out into a whole book or short book novella. But I do think that this is a better story and is more interesting than the trek in of War and Ruin, which I wouldn't say that it was bad by any stretch, but I think it was my least favourite parts of the book. Again, we're talking about like one of the best books I've ever read, so some of the worst parts of that book are better than the entire bibliography of other authors. But back to The Ice. I'm showing the book again because I think the cover is really cool. There you go. That's on my Kindle. I read this through Kindle Unlimited. So if you are a Kindle Unlimited subscriber and you've read the other Band of the Broken books, you need to read those books, and all of them are on Kindle Unlimited. Then I absolutely would say go out and read this book. It's also only £3 on Kindle anyway. So it took me 4 hours to read it. I think that's a really good value for money for a £3 novella, and I loved every page. There was no part of this novella where I was like, this is dragging, which is interesting because this novella is largely, one note is the wrong term, because there's a lot of personality, there's a lot of different scenes and situations. It's not like they're doing, fight in snow, then the next chapter is fight in snow, then the next chapter is fight in snow. Ryan Kyle gets makes every encounter dynamic and interesting. He changes up the magic that's being used, the enemies they're fighting, the situations that they go into. So even though it is kind of this relentless slog and trek across snow and ice, we also do skip a lot of we skip some stuff, so you don't get to see every single day of this 2-month trip. Yeah, I think it's interesting because I got to the 60% mark in the book actually as well. So I got to the 60% mark and it felt like it was kicking off, like it was the ending. And I was like, oh my God, like, are we going to get, is half this book the Cahill Sanderlanche, the, what was, I think Mike's book reviews jokingly called it the Cahill Apocalypse. And that's funny. But if we're, is 40% of this book Cahill Apocalypse? And it isn't. The climax of the book is around that part. Well, it's a little after there. But then after that, there's a lot of where Cahill will weave the end of this novella straight into into kind of the early chapters of Blood and Fire, the first book. Now, and there's a specific scene, there's a specific scene from the first book that is called out at the very end of this book, and I was like, I remember that scene. So that's really fun. You get to see one of the other major characters from the Bound and the Broken in that section. Or well, you can work it out if you have read the books recently enough to remember it, like I have, because I've read all of them in the last 3-4 months. So yes, will I recommend you to read The Ice? Absolutely, 100%. You honestly, if you were an absolute mad lad and you really wanted to get a feel of how these novellas are at kind of the peak of currently, this is the best novella that Ryan's written. So if you want to see that, you probably could read this standalone because it's a complete prequel, and there's no... it doesn't ruin anything for you for later books, and there's no, it wouldn't ruin anything for you. But I think that the mystery of what happened on the trip to Valatia, which is kind of spoken of in hushed tones. It's not a big thing in the other books, but it's definitely something that I was like interested to hear about. I think the mystery of that in the other books will obviously be lessened because you'll know the full story. So whilst, yes, you probably could read this one standalone, I wouldn't recommend it. It will ruin your experience for the rest of this. Not ruin, it will change your experience for the rest of the series, which I think you would be doing yourself a disservice. I think these books are excellent. They're really quick and easy reads. They're all on Kindle Unlimited or, very cheap to buy. And Ryan is literally only getting better with every book. So when I finish this book, the Amazon screen comes up and tells you to rate it. And I really, really wavered here between a 4 and a 5. Amazon and Goodreads and all that don't allow half stars. I think this is a 4.5. And the only reason it's a 4.5 is because I find it really hard to give a novella 5 stars. This is the best novella I've ever read. I would have said that Exile probably was, if not the best, very close to the best novella I'd ever read before. I wouldn't say it's the best short novel I've ever read, because I do think Carrie by Stephen King is the best of those that I've ever read. I think it's better than The Ice. However, The Ice is truly excellent. It is vivid. The action is fantastic and visceral. You really feel and understand what's going on. It's not like an action in some fantasy where you're like, where you can't imagine the scene. I can see, every swipe of the sword. I can imagine what the creatures that they're fighting look like, because Ryan's descriptions are so good and so emotive. But yeah, so we've got heart, we've got emotion, we've got a fantastic story. We've got a really strong quest, and the ties that this brings into The Bound and the Broken make it, for me, an incredibly strong novella. And like I said, I was wavering between 4 and 5 stars. I ended up rating on Amazon as 5 stars because, A, if I'm already kind of there, I might as well give him the bump, and B, Ryan's a self-published author, so if I can bring somebody to read his books, then I will consider, having a booktube channel to be worth it. And it's worth it anyway because I enjoy doing it. But I think that being able to help self-published authors get discovered and being able to help people find incredible books that are not just the same old stuff that you find on the shelves at Waterstones, which again is not bad. I've read a lot of books, mainstream books. I've read almost all mainstream books up until the last few months. I had been gifted a self-published book many, many, many years ago, and it was so poor I couldn't finish the first chapter. And from then on, I swore off self-published and was like, people are saying they're good, but it's probably just that their friends wrote it or that they got a free copy or all this sort of stuff. And then I heard so much praise for The Bound and the Broken, I was like, I'll give it a try. And I gave it a try, and I absolutely loved it. And so, if you want to have that experience, which I would really recommend you do, then get on Kindle Unlimited. That if you've got Prime at the moment, I think they're doing an offer so you can actually get Kindle Unlimited for free. Read The Bound and the Broken. Start with Of Blood and Fire. Don't listen to people who tell you to start with The Fall. Start with Of Blood and Fire. Go to The Fall. And then read novel, novella. No, I think I've already done 3. So Ryan also announced that he's writing the 4th book at the end of The Ice, which is called Of Empires and Ash, I believe. I literally just read that title, but you can tell how good my memory is. So he's announced that. He said he's writing it and the pre-orders will go up soon. And I'm so incredibly excited and really hopeful that we get that next year. But you know, it probably takes him about 18 months to write these. I think he said like a year to 18 months to write these books, so probably looking at 2025. But that will be the penultimate book in The Bound and the Broken. We'll only have one novella and one novel left to go after that. So I'm really excited. What could I pitch? If I was going to pitch a novella, they reference a lot. What I say the characters reference what happened to Ivan Arnell and his family. That could be a good story. I want more fodder. I always want more fodder. But I'll let Ryan decide. Ooh, what happens to the people in the glade after what happens in Of Darkness and Light? That's what I want. I want non-powered people struggling through an empire at war. That would be a really good book. I hope that if Ryan watches this, he's not like, what an idiot, he's pitching all these terrible stories. If you are watching this, Ryan, incredible. Thank you so much for writing these books. I love them. And I can't wait for your next one. And also, if you're just a random person watching this video, thank you so much for watching the whole video, for getting all the way to the end. If you've read The Ice and you're interested in a full spoiler discussion, I'll be posting that on Monday. If you want to ask questions to get my thoughts, I think the best place to do that, to avoid spoiling people who might be watching this one as a non-spoiler review, would be to tweet them at me. So my Twitter is @SGCH. So that's SGCH. It's also linked in the description. So fire them at me on Twitter if you do have questions. I'm going to record Monday morning, so I'm sure I will get no questions. But if you have some, then pop them in, and I would, I'd love to hear from you. So pop a comment down below if you've read The Ice and tell me what you thought of it. Please like the video and share it with your friends who are also Cahill fans, if you have any, because that is honestly the best thing that you can do for someone's channel, is just to drop a comment or share the video. And if you've liked this video and you want to be reminded about the Monday spoiler video, then subscribe. I'm happy if you want to unsubscribe later, but I also do have all the other Bound and the Broken books and novellas reviewed on the channel, and I will link those below in the description as well. So thanks again for watching. This has been a bit of a 10 PM ramble. However, I hope you've had fun, and I'll speak to you on Monday.